Hello, my name is Daniela. I am an IELTS teacher and IELTS teacher trainer. And in this video, we're going to look at some ideas of how to spend the week before your test date. I'll also give you the opportunity to practice a couple of reading and writing tasks. So make sure you are ready with a pen or pencil and a piece of paper or a notebook. Are you ready? Let's begin. In this video, we'll look at how to plan your week, how to make the best use of practice tests, reviewing and improving your performance, and a couple of ideas of what to do the day before your test. You might be familiar with the idea of something like this, a weekly planner. This is something that you can use for every week leading up to your test day. For now, we're going to focus on the week before your test date. So this is what your test week planner will look like. Notice it's quite empty, isn't it? That's because you can't plan the entire week until you have, on day one, as you can see, done a full mock test. Do you know where to get practice tests? You may have already bought a Cambridge book of practice tests. There are many out there, but don't worry if not, as there's plenty of free practice tests that can help you in this final week. So first of all, you can look at practice tests on takeielts.org, and there are a few more on the IELTS Prep app. So once you've found your practice tests, let's start the week with your mock test day. Your mock test day, it's up to you to try to replicate the test conditions as much as you possibly can. So set aside 3 uninterrupted hours. Try to make a space in your home as similar to the test conditions as you can. Create a quiet space where you will be left alone. So 3 uninterrupted hours, because remember there are no breaks between the parts of the test, and try, if possible, to have a space in your home where you'll be left alone. And then work through the practice tests in order. Do you know the order? What's first? Listening. What's next? Reading. Following this, writing, which leaves us with, of course, speaking. When it comes to speaking, you can use the IELTS Prep app to record your speaking with the practice tests on the app, or simply use the record function on your own mobile phone using any of the practice tests available. Then, once you've finished all of your tests, take a wee break, of course, have a cup of tea or coffee, and then come back to it and start marking your tests. Marking your listening and reading answers, well, that's fairly straightforward, as you have the answer keys available to you on takeielts.org. Remember that every answer carries 1 mark. But marking your writing requires a little more time, as although you might find sample answers, perhaps in the back of those test books if you've bought them, there's no specific answer key. So what you need to do is really take the time to read over your writing and try asking yourself a few questions. Consider the following. Have you answered the question? Have you reached the word count? Have you written in paragraphs? Have you connected your ideas using cohesive devices, for example, linking words? And what do you notice about your own use of vocabulary and grammar here? Consider, even if you are doing the paper-based test, once you've finished, type up your response. You can use a Word document, for example, on your PC to type up your response, and it means you can save it and revisit it to apply the spell and grammar checks. That can help you to identify any errors there are. It's similar when we come to speaking because, of course, you have to look at this by yourself, asking a few questions as you listen back to your recording. So some of these questions for your speaking. Have you spoken clearly? Are you easy to understand? Have you spoken fluently without too much hesitation? Are you expanding your answers wherever possible? What do you notice about your own use of vocabulary and grammar? And finally, because we're looking at speaking now, what do you notice about your pronunciation? This table is a rough guide to what your scores for listening, and this example here is academic reading, what those scores might mean in terms of a band. This is just a guide of the average minimum requirements for the band. I'd like to take an example from my student, Francesca. She did the tests on the IELTS Prep app, and she's very kindly shared her results with us. So here are her scores. First of all, for listening, 24 out of 40, and for reading, 21 out of 40. Now, Francesca is aiming for a band 6. So what do you think she should prioritise? Listening or reading? What do you think? Okay. Yes, hopefully you've identified that really Francesca should work on her reading first. She will, of course, review her listening, but let's prioritise reading for Francesca. So this is what you could do following your mock test day, is review your scores and consider for yourself your own priorities. And then when you're finished, you can go back to your test week planner. So now Francesca has done her practice tests. She can tick these off. Great, that's day 1 complete. And now complete the weekly planner with how she wants to prepare for her test day. So remember, this is an example taken from one student. Yours will look different from this depending on your priorities for the week. But let's just focus on Francesca's. Looking at her weekly plan, what will she do every day? Do you notice that every day Francesca has set aside time to record vocabulary and review her records? On which day will Francesca review her speaking? Have you found that? On day 5. And does Francesca have anything in her planner for the day before her test? No, she doesn't. And we're going to come back to that later on in this video. Okay, so she's finished day 1. We're moving on to day 2. What's the focus for Francesca here? What's her priority? That's right, reading. So for Francesca, and this is just an example, yours will be different. She's going to review the reading test because she made a few mistakes in the reading test. This is one example of a text that Francesca looked at. And this is where she made mistakes. Now, if you like, you can pause this video for 2 minutes and attempt to answer these 2 questions. Pause the video now. Okay, how did you get on? How did you find that? Remember, Francesca got both of these wrong. So we're going to review the answers here. You can see the answers for 32, yes, and for 33, not given. Did you get these answers correct? Don't worry if not, because we are going to go through these. It is important as you're going through your review week to take time to really understand why answers are correct or incorrect. Let's look at number 32. Our keywords, underlined in green on its own, we can find synonyms or paraphrasing of this idea in the paragraph. I've underlined these in green again. Did you find these? Can you see how with these parts underlined, there are actually 3 opportunities to find this answer? Loner. The explanation of that is it does not adhere to other molecules, and it is this coveting of its own electrons that prevents combination with other elements. So for this answer, number 32, we found it in the text. The answer is yes. And can you see how I've marked my answer? I've underlined where I found it in the text, and I've written the question number in the margin. This is because these types of questions, yes, no, not given, same as true, false, not given, follow the order of the text. So to find number 33, where do I start reading? Do I need to read from the start of the paragraph again? No, I don't. I can just go from this underlined section. Now, Francesca answered yes to number 33. Why is that incorrect? Let's look at where we find something about this in the text, perhaps. You'll notice that the text mentions boiling point is lower than other elements, but there is no mention of its temperature. So, if there is information in the statements that is not in the text, then the answer has to be not given. If you want, you can pause this video now just to review that. Okay. So when you finish your review day, finish reviewing your test, find a new example, a new practice test from either takeielts.org or IELTS Prep app. Do the reading test, just that one test. You don't want to go through the entire test again, but just the reading test. But again, try to replicate the test conditions in a nice quiet space. Check your answers and take a note of any useful vocabulary and take some time to review the vocabulary you have been recording. At the end of the day, it's a good habit to get into to talk about your progress with someone else, with a friend, member of your family, or if you're in touch with your classmates who are studying for the test as well. So we can tick off day 2. Our reading day is finished and look forward to day 3. So what are we doing? Well, what is Francesca doing on day 3? That's right, she's going to look at the listening again. So what you can do on your review day for listening is either listen again or ideally look at the audio script to understand your answers. Here is one question, a multiple choice question, where you have to choose one answer only. And here is the audio script. Pause the video for 1 minute and choose the correct answer. Okay, how did you get on? What answer did you choose? The correct answer is B. Well done if you managed to find that. It's important in your review days that the same as we did with the reading, we are taking the time to identify why answers are correct. Look at how the key phrase here has been paraphrased. Organising holidays, underlined in green, becomes what? Offering camping holidays. But notice that the full answer is given after the number of years. This is important to be aware of because it avoids the mistakes that Francesca made. Francesca got this one wrong. She chose C. You can pause the video now to think about why is this answer incorrect and why do you think she made this mistake? So what do you think? Why do you think Francesca made this mistake? if we look in the very first sentence, 25 years ago, perhaps Francesca just heard this and answered too quickly. Let's look while we're here at why A is incorrect. Compare our key phrase in the question, organising holidays, to the phrase I've underlined, providing holidays in continental Europe. Does that have the same meaning? No. So when you're reviewing your answers, remember you're reviewing why answers are correct and why they're incorrect. And take the time to notice that if we look at all of these answers, all of the mentioned years in this audio script, they're all there. And this often happens in multiple choice questions in reading and listening. But even though the numbers are mentioned, they didn't address the meaning of the keywords. So beware of this. We call these distractors. Don't be distracted by this. Take the time to listen for the meaning of the keywords in the question and not only the language of the options. So you can see the pattern of what you're doing every day is the same. That you finish reviewing the test, you find a new test for that part of the test. So we're just looking at listening at the moment. You try it again under test conditions, check your answers, note down vocabulary and review your notebook, and then take the time to discuss your progress with someone else. And then we have that lovely feeling of being able to tick off what we've done on our weekly planner. So on day 4, what is Francesca looking at here? That's right. She's going to review her writing. Now, as we mentioned at the start of this video, when it comes to writing, there is no specific answer key. There are some sample model answers in the back of some of the test books, and you'll also find a model answer to the writing tasks on takeielts.org. But the important thing is to take the time to review your own work. One way to do this is with the public band descriptors. These are public versions of what the examiner uses to assess your writing. So the examiner works with 4 criteria. Do you know what they are? We're looking at task 2 for now. The first criterion is task response. What else does the examiner look for? Yes, coherence and cohesion. Anything else? Lexical resource. And finally, grammatical range and accuracy. And this is what the public band descriptors look like. You can find this on takeielts.org. They're not exactly the same as what the examiner has, as of course that information is confidential, but it does give you some guidance in what is required at each band score. Let's look for now at band 6. That's what Francesca is aiming for. But when you're doing this, make sure that you take the time to look at the band you're aiming for and look at each of the criteria for what is expected at that band. But for now, we're going to focus on a band 6 for Francesca and lexical resource, vocabulary. Notice that there are 3 bullet points here. What you can do to help you assess your own writing is to turn these bullet points into yes or no questions to ask yourself about your own writing. So if you'd like, you can pause the video now and turn these points into questions, yes or no questions. Do that now. Okay, these are the questions that I have written. Is there a good range of vocabulary for this task? Is there some less common vocabulary? And have I made any mistakes with spelling or word form? Good. Once we have the questions, we can then apply them to our own writing. Let's do that now. So This is an example of Francesca's introduction to a task 2 essay. First, take a moment to read the question in the red box. Now, read Francesca's introduction. Remember the questions we wrote about Lexical Resource? Let me remind you of these questions. Is there a good range of vocabulary for this task? Is there some less common vocabulary? And have I made any mistakes with spelling or word form? What do you think? Look at the areas that I've identified that I think Francesca could improve. It's a good answer, but I think there are opportunities for improvement here. Think about the repetition of vocabulary. She repeats a few words quite a lot, don't you think? And I wonder if we can think of perhaps less common vocabulary for be lonely. And what about mistakes? Do you see any errors here? Look closely at spelling. Take a moment now to pause this video and try to improve Francesca's introduction. Pause the video now. Okay, do you have some ideas? Here are mine. Do you notice where I've made changes? I've included some more specific vocabulary, and I've tried to avoid repetition. I've also corrected the spelling mistake in that final sentence in beneficial. And this is what I'd like you to think about in your own writing. Look for opportunities where you can to not only correct mistakes, but also try to improve it, try to upgrade your use of language. So finish reviewing both tasks for the writing test before you find a new one, and give it another go. So set aside an hour under test conditions to do the writing again. Use the band descriptors to check your writing, and be aware of any errors you're making with grammar and vocabulary. If you take a note of these now, it'll make you more aware of what to check for in the final moments of your test. And as always, take the time to discuss how you're getting on, discuss your progress with someone else. Great. So we can tick off writing for now. So finally, the last row that's completed on the weekly planner is day 5. What are we looking at for Francesca in day 5? Good. We're reviewing the speaking test. When reviewing your speaking, go back to your recording and listen to it again part by part. For each part of the speaking, I've written some questions here for you to ask yourself. So if you like, you can pause the video now to take a note or a screenshot of these questions, or you can simply come back to the video when you're ready. These questions, along with a lot more material for your self-study for all aspects of the test, are included in the self-study materials you have. Remind me, what's part 1 about of the speaking test? What's it about? Yes, so this is more everyday questions, questions about your life, your likes and dislikes perhaps. So when you're listening to your recording, ask yourself these questions. Did I have to think about some words that I needed? Did I give reasons for things? Did I give examples? Did this take between 4 and 5 minutes? And if not, how could I have said more? When you're finished reviewing your own speaking for part 1, go to our YouTube channel, IELTS Official YouTube. There you can see some examples of a candidate in part 1 of the test. What happens in part 2 of the speaking test? Do you remember? Good. So this is your long turn. This is where you get the opportunity to speak for about 2 minutes. So as you listen to this part again, go through these questions. Did I speak for 2 minutes? Did I hesitate trying to think of words I needed? Did I correct grammar mistakes as I was talking? Did I repeat myself? And did I connect my talk and ideas with linking words? And again, when you finish this part, you can find us on YouTube to see an example of a candidate in this part of the speaking test. What happens in part 3? What do you remember about part 3 of the speaking test? Good, yes, this is an opportunity for you to give your opinions and discuss topics in a more abstract way. So as you listen back, you can ask yourself these questions. Did I answer the questions about people in general rather than about myself? Did I use a variety of different tenses? And did I use comparative structures to compare things? As often we are asked in part 3 to compare the past, the present, and the future. So again, as always, you'll be familiar with this by now. When you're finished this part, go to YouTube and try to find an example. We have a number of examples of part 3 there, and we also have examples of candidates sitting the full test. So at the end of this day, as you've reviewed your own, reviewed your own speaking samples, you can use the speaking band descriptors and do the same as you've done with the writing part of the test. Do you know the 4 criteria for the speaking band descriptors? Do you know what they are? First of all, we've got fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and remember this is speaking, so our final one is pronunciation. Now you can find these speaking band descriptors in the same place where you found the writing ones on takeielts.org. An idea as well is to transcribe your speaking, type up what you hear. So when you're listening back, and if you can type this up, it just helps you to save it and review it in a bit more detail. And again, you could apply things like the spell check or the grammar check. So at the end of this day, your speaking day, you finish your test and then you try another one, give it another go. Check your speaking against the band descriptors and take a note of any of the errors with grammar and vocabulary that you seem to be making here. When you're finished, as always, discuss your progress with that friend of yours. And then we can tick that off. And what's next? So what do you think you should do the day before your test date? What do you think? My advice? Stop. Stop any more intensive study. Try to do some non-test related exposure to English. You might want to watch an English language film, speak to a friend in English. You can, if you want, you can do a little bit of work in the morning, but I really would advise you from midday to stop, because it's much more important that you're well rested and refreshed for the test day rather than feeling exhausted after an intensive day of test practice. You've put the work in, you've got this, you're ready. So in summary, we want you to create a test environment for your full mock test day, and from the results of that, plan your week based on your own priorities. Don't overload any day. 1 skill per day is ideal. Review your test performance and vocabulary records every day. And it's important that you're not alone in this. You can get help and support from friends, family, join the IELTS official Facebook group to feel that support. As I've just said, finish any studying by midday on the day before the test so that you're not exhausted going into your test. And the evening before, spend this relaxing. Talk to your friends or family have a nice warm bath, but get an early night. You've put the work in. You are ready for your test. Good luck. Thank you so much for listening to this video, and good luck with your IELTS test.